question gets to the economy again a little bit further and taxation, and the question is, taxes are not isolated costs to individuals or businesses. How does the trickle-down effect impact families and the economy? And what are some of the realistic solutions to stimulating the economy without further burdening taxpayers? And I'll ask Lizzy to go first.
Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if I am a small business owner, let's say a restaurant owner, and the government increases my taxes and imposes me to pay for health care, regardless of whether or not I'm able to do it as a business owner, health care, medical insurance to my employees, and the cost of raw food goes up. Well, guess what? I'm going to have to figure out a way to stay in business. And most of the time, I will either have to cut back salaries, which is not a very popular solution to promote employee loyalty, or let people go, which is not a good idea either, or pass the added cost down to my customers, to my clients. And so, we're talking about a restaurant owner as an example, I would be forced to pass that added cost down to my customers via increasing the menu prices. So that means that now I have to try to maintain the same production with less employees, while the more expensive menu can potentially reduce my clientele, making my problem even worse. And even with these adjustments, sometimes business owners cannot make a profit and are forced to close their doors. This is the situation we found ourselves in the present economy, and this is a serious situation given the fact that it is the small business owner that constitutes the engine for the local economies. And if that engine is effective, it is going to have not only an impact in that local economy, but nationwide as well. And I would say a way to stimulating the economy is, without burdening taxpayers any further, would be for the government to get out of the way, for the government to eliminate unnecessary regulations that oftentimes force business owners to hire special employees to ensure compliance with these regulations. These regulations also limit the ability of business owners to be creative and innovative, and to manage their businesses in a way that best suits their needs and that of their customers or consumers. The private sector best functions in an environment where there's freedom to innovate and create, resulting in healthy competition among businesses, maintaining low prices that ultimately benefit the consumer. The more money people are able to keep in their pockets, the more people can save and or spend back into the economy, creating a healthy cycle of growth and reinvestment. Another way, of course, would be to reduce the tax liability for businesses and eliminate the imposition of the new healthcare law that forces employers to provide health coverage whether they can afford it or not. And Dr. Vecchio here can tell you that thousands of small business, including medical practices, will be forced to close because of this new law, healthcare law called Obamacare. So we desperately need a new president that will repeal this law.
Molly?
Well, I think that the trickle-down effect of extra fees and taxes is extremely prevalent today. Everybody is seeing and feeling that. You're seeing it at the pump, you're seeing it at the grocery store. You know, gas prices have more than doubled since this new administration took over, and food prices are up 15%. Now, when you raise a tax or a fee on someone that's producing a new product, and then they have to pass that along to the producer of the product, and then the distributor of that product, and the person who takes it, puts it in the truck, takes it to the grocery store so that it's right down conveniently a few blocks away from your house so that you can get it. Those extra fees are going to keep being passed on through one, through the other, now to you. And you know, when you've got to decide on what type of where you're gonna spend your money this month, because all of a sudden, you know, your income may be flat, but the food prices have increased. You've got kids that have gone back to school, and now they have new needs, or they need new school clothes, or they need new school supplies, and all of these prices keep going up, and your income's not going anywhere. And inflation is saying that your dollar's just not going to spread as far as it used to. Women are really having to make really tough choices right now because of these extra fees and fines that are being passed down to them. And so I agree with Lizzy, really the government, I think, just needs to get out of the way, because adding extra fees and taxes and regulations and requirements right now, while we're already at this complete standstill and going backwards in this economy, is hurting us. It's not helping us. So is this the right time to raise fines and fees? I think not. So let's think about the trickle-down effect and tell the government really to get out of the way.
I'm going to give an example. I think a lot of times people don't think about unemployment insurance premiums. And if you're a small business owner or business owner, period, you certainly do. Because that is one of the things that you have to face as with your employees is unemployment insurance. We received a lot of input over the last couple of years about the dramatic increases that business owners had to pay for their insurance premiums. One of the things I think people in the public somehow don't make the connection sometimes is who's paying for the unemployment insurance or the benefits. I mean, they are, there's a bit of a disconnect that somehow it's just coming out of this fund that the government has. Well, actually, if you're a business owner, you know where it's coming from. It's coming directly out of your business. And so what we've heard is right on that basically every dollar that is spent in that direction means there's an employee who you may not be able to hire. There may be some expansion of your business that you can't carry on. And I don't mean to say that we shouldn't have unemployment insurance. Those benefits are important to people who are unemployed, especially in the economy that we've just gone through. But when you keep extending them out, that is a problem. When the safety net becomes more of a hammock that people hang out in, that's a problem. And I say that in part, I was one time taking a taxi ride from the airport down to the Capitol, and the taxi driver himself, we had a good conversation about the economy and jobs, and this was someone who was definitely underemployed, had a master's degree, a lot of other things he could be doing, but he had unemployment, and he told me the story about sitting on the couch waiting for just that right job to come along for him to get back to work. And his wife was saying, when are you going to get off the couch? And he said, well, you know, I've got unemployment, I've got money, there's money coming in, it's okay. Well, it was when those benefits were running out that he said to himself, I guess I got to get off the couch. This was a gentleman who, again, was qualified to do much greater things perhaps than driving a taxi, although he did that very well and got me to the Capitol in quick time. But he himself was the one who said, because that end was in sight, I started to look at it more as that was to tide me over just until I found a job. And he was determined to get back on to his own career path. But he said, right now I need to take care of my family. So I think we need to be thinking about those things, because sometimes there's that huge disconnect. On a positive note, I think what we could be encouraging businesses to do is to figure out job training and retraining. There are many jobs that no longer exist in America in the way that they did even 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. So we need to be relevant. We need our workers to have appropriate job skills that make them valuable, not only to the employer they have today, but that employers will have down the road. I think if we do more as a country, as a state, in terms of encouraging employers to figure out that training, and also to encourage our young people to get those skills that will actually translate into a job. And education is a wonderful thing. I do believe there's a role in government to support education, K-12, higher education, but I think it does need to be relevant. I know my parents told me resources are limited. You're going to have to find a state school to go to. In-state tuition matters. I know I've told that to my kids. So again, I think budgetarily we need to be in the real world. And I do think that if we have employers who are willing to help give those skills, provide that training, we should encourage that kind of approach so that the workers have something going forward. Right, Jill?
When you really think about it, what's one of the reasons we tax things? Why do we tax cigarettes? One of the reasons we want to tax cigarettes is to decrease smoking. If we want to decrease an activity, we tax it. Okay? So let's extrapolate that to the real world of business. If you want to decrease business activity, tax it. If you want me to work less as a physician, taking care of patients, then tax the heck out of me so that I have no incentive to work and no incentive to create and no incentive to improve or employ others. So, you know, the Democrats that want to promote a tax to decrease activity don't seem to understand that when they extrapolate that over to some other activity that it's not going to decrease that one as well. One of the things that always irritates me is, as a taxpayer, the government tells me that I have to give them my hard-earned money. What happens to it when it gets to Washington? They waste a bunch of it. It filters through multiple layers of bureaucracy, and then a tiny little peanut spits out at the end that they get to decide who gets that peanut.
Right.
Why are we putting up with this?
Right.
Why? None of this is American. No part of this is what this country was based on. The government acts like they can do things for us that we can't do for ourselves and for each other.
Right.
We can do these things for each other. We've done it for each other before. We don't need the government to do these things for us. The more dependent we become on government, the more we lose our freedoms.
Right.
And our freedoms of choice. And the taxation stuff is just a small part of it. All it's doing is giving money to them that we don't know what's going to happen to it after that. That's my point.